What's up guys, we're going to be doing a deck profile for Altergeist, and this one's particularly focusing more on using hand traps. So yeah, it's more close to the competitive version of Altergeist, but in a more budget variant. So let's just get started and I'll explain every single choice I have. So we're obviously playing 3 copies of Marionetta. This card I think is one of the key cards of the deck. It just sets up your particular trap cards that you need to go off, most likely Protocol or Marionetta. But of course we have Protocol or Manifestation. Melee Seek is also just as important as a 3-card offer as well. Instantly just going into Linkaribo, you can make a lot of plays with it as well. We're also playing 3 copies of Multi-Faker because pretty much special summons more onto the board. So these 3 always keeping the same ratios there, but of course we're playing 2 copies of Silquitos because you can bounce back your opponent's stuff, but only 2 is needed. Playing 1 copy of Kunkuri here. In this particular build, I think since we're playing more hand traps, we only need 1 Kunkuri, but normally I would actually play more of her. But actually playing the hand traps, we are going to be playing 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit here, and we are also going to be playing 2 copies of Effect Veiler. So these are the hand traps I decided to play because it's a more budget variant. Of course, once the new Solomon Great structure deck comes out, I'll definitely be incorporating Ash Blossom into this as well, since it's getting reprinted as a common in that particular set. So very excited about that, but pretty low monster count here. Even in this particular standard, it's pretty high, so let's just move on to spells and traps. Alright, with spells, there's not much to go with. There's Monster Reborn because you could still make quite a bit of plays. We have our Raigeki. Sometimes you just want to clear the board because, you know, this deck has a lot of problems dealing with big beat sticks, and that's one of the weaknesses with Altergeist. We can negate everything, but we just can't get over big monsters. So sometimes we just have to let Raigeki do the work here. And we're also playing 2 copies of Pot of Desires as well, just because we don't really care about losing particular cards. We're most likely playing 3 copies anyway of these cards, and as long as we can draw into some of them, it's okay. And I'm also playing 2 copies of Twin Twisters. I would actually suggest taking out Twin Twisters and playing Heavy Storm Duster instead, the trap card. I think that's a lot better because Twin Twisters does require you to discard a card. Not to mention it's a spell card, and I'm going to state specifically why Twin Twisters is worse than Heavy Storm Duster. I would personally play Heavy Storm Dusters if I actually had them, but for now I'm playing Twin Twisters to supplement for that. But for trap cards, we're playing 2 copies of Protocol. I don't think we need any more of that. I think 2 is more than enough. We're playing 2 copies of Manifestation as well. Again, don't really need too many of them. Playing Personal Spoofing at 2. I actually am dropping this card down to 2 now. You know, playing it at 3, it's not that great. It's not an Altergeist card, despite the fact that it kind of is. It just doesn't help with the deck at all, and honestly, at this point, I'm just playing 2 now because I'm just finding it to be more of a pain to actually have in a deck rather than a benefit here. Just an interesting tech, Floodgate. You know, sometimes you just want to flip your opponent's monsters face down, and since Melee Seek can attack your opponent directly, you're also blocking out their field so they can't link summon and stuff using those monsters that was flipped over by Floodgates. So it's an interesting tech. I might bump it up as well, but for now it's just a really fun play. Playing Solemn Judgment, Solemn Warning, and 2 copies of Solemn Strike. I figured the Solemn Brigade would definitely work out pretty well in this as well. Since they're counter traps, they are obviously very difficult to negate unless you had your own counter trap. But yeah, it's definitely a really nice card to actually play here. Now, the reason why I didn't want to play Twin Twisters and I prefer to play Heavy Storm Dusters instead, despite the fact that they both technically are the same thing, is because I'm playing 2 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance here. So pretty much Both players have to set their spells first, so if we actually take out Twin Twisters and put in the Heavy Storm Dusters instead, we only have 4 spells to go off with, and that way we won't be hit too hard by the Anti-Spell Fragrance, but I think this card definitely locks down the opponent the most. Now, I've seen Altergeist builds where people actually play the Secret Village with the Spellcasters, or they play Imperial Order. Personally, I'd prefer to play Anti-Spell Fragrance. They can activate their spells and traps, but this card's just mostly slowing them down. We can negate them anyway. It's just we want to slow them down. So, yeah. To end things off, we're playing 2 copies of Storming Mirror Force. I need a bit of defense here, and sometimes they do get into an attack, and you just want to bounce back their monsters. So we're also going to be playing 2 copies of Lost Wind just because this card is really great. Now, of course, it's quite situational because it can only come back from the grave if your opponent summons something from the extra deck. But these days, a lot of people do that anyway, so I'm going to take my chances here and go for 2 copies of Lost Wind because I can make the most out of it. But that's it for the main deck. Let's move on to the extra deck. Alright, so with the extra deck, it's definitely very interesting. Playing Prime Banshee at 1, this card's definitely a really fun card. I do definitely go into it several times as well because it helps me combo off the effect of Altergeist Hextia here, which I'll be playing 3 of. But basically, I usually go into Hextia and then I continue to link climb to go into Prime Banshee as well, and Hextia's effect will go off, which is definitely quite nice here. But of course, Hextia will also gain attack, so it can get over big beat sticks. It can also negate spells and traps as well, so it's definitely a very nice card that I think is worth playing 3 copies of. Playing 2 copies of Kidolga here. Kidolga is definitely a nice card to just finish off your opponent sometimes, and it definitely works quite well with the use of Meluseek as well to get over big monsters. Playing 1 copy of Isolde here. Reason why I'm playing this is because I'm playing Winter Cherries in my side deck, so I usually take on a lot of opponents who are playing Phantom Knights now, and as a result they're utilizing Isolde, so I want to get rid of Isolde from their extra decks. Playing 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix here, just for a bit of utility of course, and Nightmare Cerberus. A few options available. Playing Summon Sorceress. All your Altergeist monsters are spellcasters after all, so Summon Sorceress works quite well. Playing 1 copy of Yugioh. Playing 1 Beauregard Dragon. Obviously, if you have a Borreload Dragon or perhaps even a Boral Sword Dragon, then play those instead. Beauregard I just put there because I don't have Beauregard or Borreload or a Boral Sword. We're also playing 2 copies of Linkuriboh. You have Meluseek, and that's your straight off level 1 that you can just go into Linkuriboh, so it's definitely quite nice here. And to end things off, we're playing 1 Ningirsu, the World Chalice Warrior, because it has a similar effect to Silquitos here, so it's definitely quite nice. But that's pretty much it for this particular deck profile. It's very fun playing this particular variant compared to the first deck profile here. This one is definitely the more competitive version, of course played on a more budget scale, but you know, it's something that definitely works out for me, and hopefully it works out for you when you try and test this out as well. But in the meantime, hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time.